HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambee. With Bambee, get access to your own dedicated U.S.-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambee's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambee starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambee can take off your plate. Go to Bambee.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambee.com. Type in Accelerate. Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth, where we're exploring all sorts of business topics. Experts from around the world join me, your host, Diane Helbig, for a conversation where they share their expertise with all of you. Take what you need when you need it. Featured on Inc.com, Forbes, and MSNBC's Your Business, this podcast is recognized as one of the best podcasts for small business, sales, leadership, social media, and more. When it comes to business, Accelerate Your Business Growth has got it covered. And now on with the show. My guest today is Melanie Spring. Melanie has over 20 years of experience helping others build their personal and professional brands, giving them the tools to show up and show off. Melanie is a dynamic international keynote speaker, leadership development expert, and speaker trainer who works with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and CEOs of household brand names and Fortune 500 companies. Thanks so much for joining me today, Melanie.
Thanks so much for having me, Diane.
I am thrilled to have you here. I'm curious about getting your input on a thought about how great leaders understand that humans are the bottom line in their company. What does that mean, look like? You know, what's that story?
Well, actually, it becomes a bigger story when you ask a question that way, I guess. So I'm a brand strategist by trade, and I had this feeling probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that I was missing a piece of the bigger puzzle when it came to helping my clients brand themselves and understand how their branding could really step out and be different than everyone else. And so I did a tour called the Live Your Brand Tour, and I interviewed top companies all over the US, asking them really deep questions about how they built their brands, why they were successful, what really made them tick. And it wasn't about, the logo or the marketing materials or the content. I mean, all of that's helpful. But at the end of the day, it was all about the humans that they were hiring and making sure they were on brand for them. And every single time there was a resounding, the humans, they're at the core of the brand.
Really? I love that. I wish I wasn't surprised by that.
I know, I understand.
So, are the people that those companies are hiring, are those people helping tell the story? Have they become storytellers for the brand? And is that part of why they have so much impact?
Well, if we think about just the difference between how humans are influencing the world before the latest big disruption, which was the pandemic at this point, and we think about how most people would be hired as a number in a company, especially a big company. They're hired because they're like, oh, well, you fit a spot, you fit a slot that we have that's open. And as things progress, we realized that the humans are the driver for the story. The humans are the story, really. And if you have a team of people who don't care about the company or the mission or what you're really doing, and you have them working like they're, cogs in a factory, basically, then you're not going to get the brand loyalty that you would when you call up a company and you have an experience with a human being. Even if it's like, I'm having a problem, or I see something that's not working, or I have something I'd like to share. And that human experience is the story that's happening. And so when we hire on brand, and we hire on purpose, and we hire on mission, and we help make sure that they're trained to do that, whether it's intrinsically trained because they're just really good humans and they fit, or they understand the bigger brand picture, the bigger brand mission, then that story becomes something that even your customers or clients or people who've heard about these stories are telling.
Wow. God, I love that. Okay, so what are ways to create this team of storytellers?
Well, first, it's about making sure that you're hiring for the brand. So even before you start the hiring process, you've got to really think, do I have my brand together? Like, do I have a plan for my brand? And whether you're a one-person company who's hiring contractors or a 50,000 person company who's hiring to fit smaller needs, you still have to make sure that you understand, how do we talk about this? Who do we hire? What is the fit? What is a good fit? How do we know that someone's a good fit? I mean, there's 100 different things to think about, but even before you start writing a job description or even start thinking about who, you have to know, who are we, so that we can make sure that this person truly, truly fits. That feels to me like a really big thing that a lot of companies, big or small, struggle with, really being able to define or see clearly who they are. Do you find that? Yeah, it's all over the place. I think, like you said, like the humans being the center feels like a shock, even though it shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
It's a shock for most people because they think, well, I'm running a company. We have a service or a product and we have to get it out to the world. Who cares about the people behind it? We care about the thing that we're doing. Right. But in reality, it doesn't matter if it's a service or product. It doesn't matter if it is a cog that you're selling. It's the experience behind it. It's the story behind it. It's the humans behind it and the energy of those humans, which is at the core of the story.
All right. So this feels to me like the first thing we need to do is change our perspective around who we are as a company, as a brand. Is it important? Let's talk about small business for a minute. So how does the brand of the owner fit in, or the founder fit in?
Oh, you're asking questions that are like my favorite things to talk about.
Thank goodness.
So personal brand of a company. So we'll talk about, if there's a one-person company, you're talking about business brand and a personal brand, because as the owner of the company, you're not just building a business brand, you're also building a personal brand. And so let's just like zoom out in a really big way. Even if you're the CEO of a 50 million person company, for all it really matters, your personal brand is the most important to everything else that's happening in the company. If you say one thing or do one thing that goes against the mission of the company, good luck. I mean, we see this all over the place. So narrow that all the way down to, you are the business brand and you have a personal brand. Those are not always the same thing. And a lot of us, including myself, tend to mush them together and try to make them the same thing when they're really not. So the business brand, if you want it to grow, has to be separated from the personal brand so that those two things can really work together. Like, you have your personal views, you have political views, religious views, all of those things. That's part of your personal brand. Right. Does it have to be a part of your business brand?
No, I actually, for me, I would like it not to.
Right. And so you can hire on brand, even though you personally have certain things that you are fond of and love and are really standing for. You're willing to be a rebel for those things. Your company doesn't have to. It can be a little more gentle or softer or not as outspoken if you don't want it to be. It could match very well with your personal brand, but it doesn't have to. So you're hiring for people who are more on brand with your business, but also like you as a leader.
Okay. So this is so interesting for me that this like all starts with, with who you bring onto your team, whether they're employees or contractors. So I have this question about authenticity. I sort of feel like you answered it. So let me ask this question. Is it then when you hire people who are on brand that they automatically, authentically speak to the brand, or, no matter what's going on, or do they need some sort of help with that or script? You know what I mean? Like, does it come naturally to them because they are so connected to the mission or vision or whatever it is? Or is it something that they have to be coached on?
Well, so let's go even more granular when it comes to who you're hiring. It could even be just a service provider. So I host retreats and I have a few people who are on my team, but every once in a while we need a yoga instructor or someone who does breath work or a chef or a photographer. I mean, there's all sorts of service providers that are not necessarily people I would bring on for all of my things as contractors, but every once in a while I need a person in Texas or a person in New York. So even those people have to be able to speak in line with your brand. And that means you don't have time to train them. You don't have time to get them up on your brand values. They don't even know your core values necessarily, but you're hiring them for who they are specifically. Do they fit? And are they going to be able to uphold your brand values without even necessarily knowing them? So are they asking really good questions in those first conversations you're having? Are you thinking about how they're sharing? How does their energy feel to you? Are you enjoying your time with them, or are they overwhelming? Some people need overwhelming. Some people like fast-paced, go, 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 go. Other people need a little more chill, a little more centered, a little more relaxed. So you're feeling your way through those conversations based on how you feel with that person. And then later, if they come on for more and more things, of course, you're going to get them up to speed on your brand values and who you are and how to talk about you. But if they're not even asking, like, what's this retreat about? Like, no, thank you. I'm not here for
that. Yeah, I love that, because as you were talking about that, I was thinking there really is value then in having that resonance with the people who either are on your staff or are, contractors for you, because that all matters in your ability to deliver on your brand, just, having that connection, that feeling.
Exactly. And that's really what it's all about. Branding is a feeling. It's not colors or logos or marketing materials or content. I mean, it's all of those things, but they all make up the brand, which is, at the end of the day, a feeling. Like, think of any big company, like basic ones like Apple or Nike. You have a feeling about them. And it doesn't mean that you have to love them, but they invoke a feeling in you in some way. Like, why do you hate Nike? Well, it's because people were burning their sneakers. You might actually really love Nike because certain people were burning their sneakers. It doesn't really matter whether you love them or hate them, or if you have no feeling about a certain brand, especially a big one, they haven't done a very good job of hooking you, especially if you're their target market.
Ah, okay. So how can a brand express that feeling to their ideal customers? That feels hard.
I mean, we can go all sorts of ways with this, but the biggest way to do that is to build out a really holistic brand. And so that starts with making sure everything feels the same. So let's say that if this is a problem with a lot of small businesses, and especially ones with storefronts, you see one logo on the window, you see a different one above the door, there's a different one on their menu, there's a different one on social media, you see them talking in the restaurant or in the storefront one way, but then you go on social media and they seem a different way. So there's no cohesiveness around the brand. And so that's the biggest thing about having a small brand, having a small hometown, intimate kind of brand. You don't really think about those things. When big companies are thinking about how do you feel right now as you pick up your Burt's Bees chapstick? They're thinking about that, but you're not as a small brand. And so that's one of the closest things you could possibly get to becoming a big brand when it comes to how you put yourself out there, is looking at every single touch point that someone can find you on, and can you control it so that everything is cohesive and holistic. So they're not wondering, am I at the right place? Is this the same as the one I saw on the street today?
Do we do that because we aren't really paying attention to it, or because we feel like we're trying to be all things to all people?
I think it's because most people don't realize how important it is. Most people think, oh, I just, I got a logo on Fiverr or whatever the other ones are these days. And I decided like, oh, my uncle created a website for me and he just put some content together and just, we put it up. We just needed to get something up there. And, oh, I got a sign made from this cheap sign manufacturer. I mean, a lot of it's like save money, which I totally get. Yeah. And what if you were to use the exact same logo on literally everything? I can say that that's probably the cheapest way to brand something, is get a white background, use white paper, use a white sign, use white marketing materials, and have one beautiful, simple black and white logo on it. That's super easy. And then make sure everything is wrapped in that. Make sure that one thing is on literally everything you send out, every social media post, at the bottom of every video, anytime you get on stage, you put it on a PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be fancy, which most brands don't have fancy logos.
Right.
It's usually overkill, and it's a small business when it's fancy.
That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, minimalist is pretty big.
Yeah. And it's big because simple is easier to be recognized. It's easier to recognize a simple logo than it is a really intricate one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Crypto is like the financial system, but different. It doesn't care where you come from, what you look like, your credit score, or your outrageous food delivery habits. Crypto is finance for everyone, everywhere, all the time. Visit Kraken.com/see what crypto can be to learn more. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures, Inc. View PVI's disclosures at Kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
This episode is brought to you by Bubbly Sparkling Water, your must-have sofa sidekick. Available in a delicious range of flavors like blackberry, lime, and grapefruit. One episode? No. Bubbly is for one season sort of nights. No calories, no sweeteners, all smiles. Crack a smile with the official sparkling water of reality TV. Buy Bubbly Sparkling Water at your local grocery store or head to BUBLY.com.
HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambee. With Bambee, get access to your own dedicated U.S.-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambee's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambee starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambee can take off your plate. Go to Bambee.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambee.com. Type in Accelerate. I also want to ask you a question about, because you're a speaker trainer, I want to ask you about crafting a speech.
Okay.
So if someone's like on the fly and they only have a few minutes, what would you tell them to do?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to butcher this. So let me grab my workbook really quick so I don't do that. Hold on just a second. You're asking such a great question because I have a great quote for this. President Woodrow Wilson was congratulated on introducing the vogue of short speeches and asked how long it took him to write them. He said, It depends. If I'm to speak for 10 minutes, I need a week for preparation. If 15 minutes, 3 days. If half an hour, 2 days. If an hour, I'm ready now. It's really, really, really easy to write a long talk. If someone has 3 minutes, I can promise you they'll go too long. They won't say what they need to say. They won't get to the point. It's really hard to have just a few minutes to say what you need to say. Like, ask anyone to give an elevator pitch and you're like 15 minutes later and you want to kill them.
Yeah.
So if you're able to create something really simply, that's actually a huge art form. So let's say that someone gives you an hour. You could teach 15 different things, I'm sure, Diane, in the hour that you have up there. Maybe even get them to do some interactive stuff. It would be super easy because this is your topic. This is your content. Easy. But if someone has just a few minutes, I would say, what are your first 10 words? What's one thing you want to make sure they walk away with? And can you literally wrap it up in under 5 minutes?
Wow. It would be so great if we could do that.
People remember short content more than they remember long content.
Yeah, that's so funny. Like I always say to people, especially when they're networking and someone asks them, what they do, whatever, that the more you're talking, the less the other person is listening.
Well, and most of the time people are listening to say something. They're not even listening to actually listen. They're like, hey, what do you do? But the thing is, we'll just talk about elevator pitches because that's like the simplest way to talk about speaking.
Yeah.
If I asked you, what do you do? What am I doing the whole time you're talking?
Getting ready to tell me what you do.
Right. All I'm thinking about is what I'm going to say to you.
Yep.
So what would happen if you caught me off guard when I asked you that question? What's the best way for you to catch me off guard and get me to stop thinking about what I'm going to say?
Ask you to tell me first.
Or ask a question.
Yep.
Because then I'm like, wait, what just happened? So being able to start off, and this isn't for speeches necessarily, because it's hard to get a big audience to interact with a question at the beginning. But if someone says, hey, what do? You can be like, have you ever thought about your brand as a human experience? And they're like, hold on a second. And it's got to be a yes or no question because they're already thinking about something else. So you've got to really catch their attention. Then you can be like, hi, I'm Melanie. I help people create the human experience through their brand, through their speaking, and building their brilliant rebellion. What do you do? And they're sitting there going, wait, back up. What just happened? And it helps people be able to stay more connected to you as you're talking because they're not really asking for you to answer. They're asking so they can pitch you on something.
Yes, exactly. I know it's a terrible question. I wish people would ask it.
I think one of my favorite questions to ask people, especially at events like that, because I hate networking, is what did you do this weekend? Most people are like, wait, what day is it? What did I do this weekend? So it gives them a little of a different thing to think about rather than.
I know my favorite is tell me your story.
That's such a hard one. It's like, tell me about you. Okay, I was born in a small town. What? It's like a date. It's the worst thing to ask on a date. Well, tell me your story. Like, oh man, where would you like me to start? How interesting do you want me?
The long version or the short version?
How long do we have? Were we having the first meal? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So this is just so interesting for me because I think so many people have either they don't really understand branding or they have an idea that it is about all the things that you were talking about before, that it's not about, the collateral and all of that. Let me ask you this question. So if there's a small business owner listening, which there is, and they're thinking to themselves, I'd really love to have that feeling, get in touch with my brand so that I'm resonating that, I'm able to express that with other people. Is there like an exercise they can go through, or are there questions they could be asking themselves, or is it a good idea to ask their customers?
Oh, there's so many different things they can do to do this. But one of my favorite ways to figure out your own personal brand, which I'll share mine. My personal brand is approachable badass.
Love that.
So I took this idea of having people do the same thing they do in their business. And like you would in your business, you would say, oh, hey, I need to ask other people, what do they think of me so that I can understand, am I on track with my brand? Am I on purpose? Do they really think the thing that I want them to be thinking? Because we get to create our brand, but I say this all the time, your brand is what everyone else is saying about you, not what you're saying about yourself.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, asking your customers is a great way to do that. But you're not asking your customers like, what do you think of me? And then creating the brand that they think of you. You're saying, does this match the thing I want them to be thinking of me? And what do I need to change in order for them to think the thing I want them to be thinking? So as a person, you can do exactly the same thing. You can say, hey, friends, family, humans I know, people I don't know, people on social media, what are 3 to 5 words that describe me? And being able to compile that list while also writing down a list of things that you want them to say about you and seeing, do they fit? Do they compare? And what do I want to do to change that once I get all of that information back? And that's actually how I found Approachable Badass, because I'm super friendly and helpful and have information for people that they really want to hear. And I learn people's secrets because they tell me everything, and I poke them and push them into being who they're meant to be, which is the badass part of me.
I love that exercise. And, when I first launched right before I was launching my business back in 2006, I took a course, and that was one of the things we had to do is go to, 5 people who know you best and ask them how they would describe you. And it really is enlightening.
It's amazing because it helps you also see, am I in alignment? I think that's the biggest thing. Over the years, I've had to test it over and over. Am I still being an approachable badass? And I mean, when I first came up with it, I can look back at pictures from 6 or 7 years ago when it started, and I was like, I really wasn't as much as I am now. I think I've grown more into being the approachable badass I am, instead of being the person who was back then seen by everyone as that, but I didn't feel like it. Like I felt like it inside, but I wasn't dressing like it. My hair wasn't like it. My general style. I mean, I bought a red Mini because I was like, approachable badass. That's 100% an approachable badass car. So being able to really take that idea of who you really are and align it in every way, like asking yourself, is this brand me? Really, truly, does it feel like me? Does it look like me? Does it sound like me? If I post things, I had someone actually tell me in a talk that I did, she's like, can you make sure to just not say any swear words? And I was like, my business cards have this on it. Are you kidding me? It's like, well, I don't know if it's a good idea to bring those with you. And I was like, what? This is not in alignment with me, babe. I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, I'm not going to say F-bombs on stage, but I am going to say badass because it's kind of a thing for me. So no. So making sure it's all in alignment with your energy and what you want to do is the key to all of that.
It is key. But one of the things I'm hearing is then staying true to yourself. There's times you may have to say no.
There's a lot of times you have to say no. I mean, it's with any big brand. If you think about it, they're not for everybody.
Yeah.
Every big brand is like Apple is not for everybody. There are PC users who will be PC users till the day they die. Yeah. Because Apple is like, no, we are not for everyone. We're for the rebels. We're for the people who don't fit in everywhere else. We're for the creatives. And we don't care about the rest of you.
Yeah.
Which is great. They took a stand. But if everyone likes you, then we have a problem.
Yeah. Right.
And it's not that people have to hate you. It's that some people are just not your people, which is awesome. There are a lot of people out there. You don't have to make everyone happy.
Exactly. Oh gosh, I'm so glad you just said that.
Permission, full permission.
Oh my goodness. Well, because I think too many people, I think that's part of the reason why they can't really land on their brand or, any of that feeling, because they are trying to speak to so many audiences that they're not speaking to what actually makes them special.
Right. And it's because they're trying to water themselves down. They're trying to make themselves fit everywhere, which I have to say, we were all raised to do that. We're all like in a society and a human system that is meant for us to not die. So stay with the rest of the people. We're supposed to follow along with what everyone else is doing because, I mean, I heard this on a podcast not too long ago. that the reason we don't want to stand out is because we are literally programmed that we could die if we stand out. If we speak out about something, we could get fruit and tomatoes thrown at us, just like they used to on stages. We would be burned at the stake if we said something we shouldn't. We would be hung. This would not be working out for us if we did that. We don't have as much of that anymore. I mean, we still do. I mean, Syria is going through that right now, but being able to think about the fact that we have a lot more freedom than we used to say what we want to say and say what's on our mind. And we don't have as much of that anymore, but it's hard to unprogram the generations of experience that we have before us, that if we say something, we're going to die because of it.
Right. Yeah. It's tricky, right? It can make you feel really vulnerable. I get that.
Right. But there are some of us, which I call them brilliant rebels, that we stand out. We don't want to be like everyone else. And we're willing to do the work to know who we really are, not just to build a business to get clients to make money, but to stand in our purpose and in our values and for who we really are, so that the people we're supposed to work with will see that siren song or hear the siren song and see the call and know that we're the person for them. Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this. I love your energy around this too. And I think this has been such a refreshing conversation around brand, which I knew it was going to be, but really, I talked to a lot of people about this subject, and this is really, it just feels different. So I appreciate that. And thank you for doing this with me.
Absolutely. I would do it again in a heartbeat. You asked really difficult and also awesome questions.
Well, excellent. I most likely will take you up on that. In the meantime, will you tell the listeners how they can find you and all the things that you offer?
Absolutely. So I am Melanie Spring, and you can find me at melaniespring.com. And I'm also the host of The Brilliant Rebellion, which is at brilliantrebelsretreat.com.
Nice. I imagine there are people listening who are going to want to know about that just as much.
We just had another person sign up for our June retreat today. She's so excited to quit her job and start her Brilliant Rebellion.
So great. And I love that Brilliant Rebellion. It's really great.
Thanks.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much again. And listeners, thank you. You are who we're doing this for. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, a production of Evergreen Podcasts. Discover more episodes of this podcast and explore others at evergreenpodcast.com. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And if you're looking to get your sales strategy headed in the right direction, pick up a copy of Succeed Without Selling on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
We are Jackie Clayton and Katie Van Horn, co-hosts of the Inclusive AF podcast. We're two diversity, equity, and inclusion peeps who love both what we have in common and what makes us different.
During the day, we use our superpowers to block bias and break down systems that are inequitable within companies and create inclusive AF places to work. We're also BFFs who have tough conversations about our different lived experience. Come have a listen and learn something new.